Well, happy Friday. I am getting ready for Wayne and Dakota to show up to pick up this machine that I've worked at very quickly to get done so that they can take it back to Tennessee with them. And this again is a Viking Husqvarna model 2000, the first in the Colormatic series that came out right around 1960. And this particular machine belonged to Wayne's grandmother, who got it right around 1965. So I'm just doing some final prep. I've got a couple of sew-offs set up. We're not going to do a lot of sew-offs because they've got to get on the road. They probably have about 9 or 10 hours, and they've got to try to miss the traffic going through Chicago. At least they're hoping to miss it, I'm sure, because they've got to pass through that way to head towards Tennessee. So I'm just going to do some more prep. You can kind of watch as I get ready for them to arrive. And also, they don't know it yet, but I have a special gift, and I don't know if Dakota is going to claim it or if Wayne is going to claim it, but this is a real nice Marine Corps blanket that belonged to my father. And I thought that with Wayne being a former Marine and also former Army as well, that he and Dakota would like to take this back to Tennessee. Whether or not you realize it, it gets cold in Tennessee, and I'm sure that they'll be able to put this blanket to use. So I'm going to present this to them once they arrive, and we'll kind of go from there. Okay? All right, so just join me in kind of watching as I get stuff ready. I did a lot of sewing off camera getting Wayne's machine ready, so I'm putting a fresh needle in it since I won't have time to do that once the guys show up. And when you set the needle on this model 2000, you obviously put the flat side of the needle to the back, and you're going to be threading this machine from front to back as well. I'm also going to show you in the manual. Kind of look inside of the manual here, and this is the original manual that Wayne's grandmother had with it. I have a couple copies of this myself, and you can see here they're showing you how to set it up for sewing. You kind of put the bobbin on the left, you're going to put the bobbin in and drop it in just like you see it there, which means as it's turning, it's going to be turning counterclockwise. And you kind of draw that thread through there and then ultimately underneath that tension band right there so that it's getting positive traction. Now type in the chat, what does this bobbin do as far as the sewing process? Does it control the output of the lock stitch, which it's closest to, or does it control the output of the top stitch? Type it in the chat if you would. But manuals are a great resource. Even here they're showing you winding a bobbin, and you know, don't do it like this, don't do it like that, do it like that. And that can make a big difference in how that thread feeds as well. Yeah, manuals are a good thing. What a difference as far as what we're getting from this machine now compared to what Wayne was getting from it when he showed me the sew off. And that's probably him texting right there. Wayne just wrote, sorry, but need to push back 30 minutes. So we're going to continue forward with doing some sew-offs on the machine before he and Dakota arrive then. No problem, comma, recording some video now of the machine, comma, and we'll keep the camera rolling until Dakota and you arrive. Please text when you arrive at the workshop. Well, good. That gives us a little bit more time to do some final checks and sew-offs on the machine. So that's a good deal. I'm going to zoom in on the needle right now. I have to raise the camera up a little bit too. I've got it on the other workbench and I always have to kind of take that into account. When you can kind of see in the on the right there what Wayne was getting before this whatever that is, and now we just did our initial sew off. We'll take a look at that a little bit closer. We're going to lay down a zigzag on this now as well. So to change it to a zigzag off camera, I'm taking the stitch width from 0 over to right around probably 3, and lay down a zigzag next to this. take a look at this in just a second. I'm going to lay down one more stitch next to it. What a world of difference. What a world of difference. A little bit of workshop magic. Alright, so now we're going to do a stretch stitch, and I'll show you how to do this real quick. Kind of change the camera shot here. So the Colormatic series was set up around 1960 to make it, we'll kind of stay right about here, to make it super easy to operate the machine. It's just a matter of matching colors, but in this case, the stitch selector right here at the top left also gives you an opportunity to lay down everything from a buttonhole to a standard zigzag, a 3-point zigzag, and then you can set other color settings on here as well. This is going to be your stitch length up here, and then your reverse button right here in the center, and then finally your stitch width down here. So what I've done is I've set the stitch width on 3, and I'm going to set the stitch length also on right around 3, and then we've got our stitch selector already on the zigzag setting, but we're going to change it one over so we can set it on the 3-point zigzag once I get this to stand still here. Come on, camera. I know it's Friday, sort of, but tighten that up a little bit. Maybe that'll help. There we go. So you can see right now we're on zigzag, or you can also do a straight stitch if your stitch width is set. We're going to turn it one more and get it to the 3-point zigzag right at that setting there. And I think I'll shorten up my stitch length a little bit more as well, just to tighten this up a little bit more. So now I'm going to come out in this shot. So again, we've got stitch selector up here. We set it on a 3-point zigzag. I've got my stitch length on 3, but I'm going to shorten it up even a little bit more. I'm going to take us down to about 2.5. And then I've got my stitch width on 3 as well. So let's zoom in at this and take a look as we sew this one off too. And you can already see, I think you can see in the camera, I'll bring the light in as well. There we go. A little bit hard to see white on pink, but I'll bring the light in as well so you can hopefully see that stitching as we're getting ready to lay down this next row of stitching. And again, we're doing this on the same material that Wayne was using down in Tennessee, and really struggling with it, as you can kind of see there. So we'll lay down that 3-point zigzag and then see if we can take a closer look at that stitching on the same material that Wayne was using as well. And I'll only be able to sew down so far because we've got other stitching at the end there that Wayne had laid down. All right, here we go, 3-point zigzag. And I think I have the music quiet enough you can hear this model 2000 is just running whisper quiet now, whisper quiet. Beautiful stitching. Holy Jiminy crickets. Just amazing. Let me grab my stitch off holder and we can take a look at these real quick. And just ignore all that. That's Wayne stuff there. May actually move it on the end of the bed. It'll be a little bit easier to set it up. There we go. Let's take a look at these stitches. And again, this is the same material that Wayne was using. Look at that top row first with the straight stitch. Absolutely page 34. The spacing, the formation, the integrity of the stitch is just exactly as we want to be seeing it. Beautiful stitching. I'll pause right there for a second. And then we're looking at that zigzag down below. And I forgot to ring the bell. So if you show up after this, you got to get a late pass from one of the veterans, okay? All right. And I'm kind of leaning over the workbench the way I have this camera set up so I can leave enough room for Dakota and for Wayne. Maybe I'll move it just a little bit so I don't have to lean quite as far. But beautiful, beautiful straight stitching, and now we're looking at that zigzag row as well. Solid, solid page 34, if not a solid page 34 plus. Beautiful integrity of the stitch. Now let's look at that. Let's take a look at that 3-point zigzag just below. Somewhere. There it is. I think that's such a fun stitch. And look at it in comparison to what Wayne was getting just below trying to do a straight stitch with this machine before it came to the workshop. That is the workshop magic, folks. There it is right there. Beautiful, beautiful stitching. Look at all three rows in totality now. Straight stitch on top, zigzag in the middle, and then that 3-point zigzag on the bottom. Folks, that is a solid page 34, if not a solid page 34 plus. Very, very pleased with how this 2000 is performing now after parts replacements and just a slew of other things. I'll kind of pause right there as we flip it over and take a look at that lock stitch next. And again, look at that bottom row that Wayne was getting before I spent time on this machine over the last couple of days. All right, turning it over now to look at that lock stitch. On the everlasting arms. So now we're looking at the lock stitch, and you know what? No difference. Looking at that top row of straight stitching first, absolutely spot on. Matter of fact, we'll look at both rows at the same time, the straight and the zigzag. Exactly as it should be. That's what we want to be seeing from a Swedish beauty from 1965. Again, this machine was introduced in 1960, the first of the Colormatic series that Husqvarna came out with. And what a great innovation to make it easier for the end user by simply matching colors. You know what I mean? There's our 3-point zigzag. We had to stop a little quick because we ran into some other stitching that Wayne had done. But that's exactly what we want to be seeing. And again, look at that bottom black row there in the thread that Wayne had been trying to do. It's just blah. And then you look at this stuff and it's absolutely poetry in stitching. Poetry in stitching. Beautiful, beautiful stitch work. All right, let me go ahead and I'm just going to keep plugging forward on stitch offs to save some time. because I know Wayne and Dakota are excited to get on the road. They've got a long trip ahead of them, but I'll definitely share this with them when they arrive so they can see this as well. And these, if you somehow missed them on Facebook, these are some of the stitch offs I did off camera. Once I got done with all the work on the machine, I'll show these to you as well. And I think we'll be seeing these on Facebook also, so you're going to be seeing them again in a little bit. And in the back of the machine right now, I don't think I mentioned it, right now we have Cam A in the back of the machine. I don't know if Wayne has other cams for his grandmother's machine or not, or if he only has Cam A. It's possible I've got other cams that I could, you know, present to him. So we'll see. So these are the stitches I did off camera. Gotta loosen the camera a little bit now. And what I sewed on here is I sewed on saddle grade leather. This is the saddle grade leather that Emma got for me from down in Florida. And obviously on the far left we've got a ticky-tacky type stitch. It's kind of fun. The one over from the right, or two from the left, I should say, is some sort of a mountain stitch. Then we got kind of a stretch blind hem stitch, the third from the left. And then last but not least, on the far right, we've got a standard zigzag stitch. And we'll just kind of go up and down and take a look at these. But again, we're using I don't think I mentioned, we're using a size 90-14 universal Schmetz needle. It's not a leather needle, but it's designed to handle a wide field of materials. And you can see it just ate up this saddle grade leather. It didn't have any trouble. And yeah, it's only a single layer, but it's saddle grade leather, folks. And it's probably about 3 or 4 ounces thick nonetheless. And laid down just absolutely page 34 stitching. Beautiful stitching. That's our top stitch, obviously. And again, when you reflect back to how this machine was sewn before, it's like, are you kidding me? And these are some of the other stitches I laid down here. We laid down on the far left is one of the cam generated stitches, kind of almost a floral rosy type pattern stitch. And then we did kind of a stretch stitch, second from the left. I changed the stitch length and sewed it a second time, and then finally a straight stitch on the far right there. And all of the stitches are a solid page 34, if not a page 34 plus. Beautiful, beautiful stitching. Just fabulous. Look at both of those side by side. You know what, if you're sewing something, and I think Wayne's mainly going to be doing some adjustments, maybe some mending or something like that. But if you're making some products, if you have a little store out of your home and you're maybe set yourself up with a website and you're doing some leather work, I'll tell you one thing, this machine could make you some money. And again, if you add some of the other cams that will go with this machine, right now all we have is Cam A. You're going to be able to generate some projects that are just holy mackerel. They are going to be phenomenal because that stitching is just top shelf. And that really is, again, why everyone wants to own. You know what, if you ever meet somebody that says that they don't want to own a Swedish Beauty, you know that they're a chronic liar, because when you look at stitching like this, especially on saddle grade leather, anyone is going to want to have a machine in their arsenal that can do this sort of thing. And yes, some of the newer machines can do decorative sewing, but they're going to struggle. They're going to struggle when you get into saddle grade type leathers. They just are. So let's change the shot again. Look at the machine as we're waiting for Wayne and Dakota to come to the workshop. They're running just a little bit late. And I'm going to set these sew-offs to the side, along with Wayne's original one. And we'll just keep on plugging forward. Just kind of keep on going. Keep on going. So I also cut, I cut some other types of leathers as well. I've got my elk hide, I've got denim, I've got more saddle grade leather, and I've also have some vegetable tan leather. Maybe we'll do some vegetable tan leather next and check that out. So 2 layers of vegetable tan leather is probably right around 4 to 6 ounces of leather. I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer so you can see it. And then we'll lay down probably a straight stitch, a zigzag, and a stretch stitch going down this material. And again, 2 layers. Wayne is not likely to be sewing this heavy, but isn't it great to know that your machine can handle it? You know what I mean? Go up a little bit higher because of the... That's the only tricky thing about my workbenches is they're different heights. So that's the leather we're going to be sewing through right there. You can see each layer is right around probably 3 ounces of leather. So we're looking at somewhere between, if I can get my hand to stop jiggling the camera, we're looking at somewhere between 3 to 4 ounces per layer. So probably about 4 to 6 ounces between the 2 of them. And vegetable tan leather is not a super easy material to sew either. And you can see right there the thickness that we're going to be going through. So let me get the camera set up, get my hand off of it so I can stop jiggling it. And then we'll check this out. We'll go up a little bit higher. All right, there we go. So I got my hand off the camera right now. It just has a mind of its own, doesn't it? All right, so let's do this now, and we'll see how this Husqvarna Model 2000 from 1965 handles this particular sew-off. Again, we're going a little bit heavier here, and this is a belt-driven machine. Don't know if I mentioned that, but it's got a really good pulley system on it. And with the pulley system that it has, it really does a great job of distributing that power once it comes off of that output shaft on this 1 amp motor. This is a 1 amp motor on this Model 2000. It is not one of the 1.5 amp motors. But you know what? Once I've gone through a motor, it doesn't matter. I would put one of my fully optimized 1 amp motors against a non-optimized 1.5 amp motor any day of the week. So I think we have more than enough power to get the job done. So let me change off camera. I'm changing my stitch selector back to a straight stitch and adjusting my stitch width back to 0, adjusting my stitch length to nearly maximum, and we'll lay down a straight stitch. Ah, I better get some water. I'll lay down a straight stitch, a zigzag, and then a 3-point stitch next to it. There we go. I'll wet my whistle a little bit. All right, so straight stitch first. And always make sure when you launch your take-up arm is at the highest position. If you're brand new to sewing, the take-up arm is going to be that right there. Okay, so always make sure you're at the highest position. The reason you do that is it allows the machine to move into free flow motion, because it's right now in the process where it's going to be coming down with the down sweep of the needle bar as it's beginning the sewing process. There's nothing binding, there's nothing dragging, there's nothing holding the machine back. So you always want to start with the take-up arm at the highest position, okay? Set yourself up for success. All right, let me get it lined up again now as best as I can. All right, so a straight stitch first, a zigzag, and then a 3-point stitch right after that. All right, 2 layers of vegetable tan leather, right around 6 to 8 ounces of leather. Here we go. Just double checking my settings, okay? Once I get my foot all the way on the foot controller, beautiful stitching. Wow. Wait until you see these. Wait until you see these. All right, let's get that back underneath the presser foot. Now we're going to be laying down a zigzag next to it. It's going to be a slightly compressed zigzag. It's not going to be to the max. So I'm adjusting my stitch length right now to right around 3. Actually, I'll go even a little bit smaller than that. I'll probably do 2.5. And then I'm going to adjust my stitch width also to 2.5. Get kind of a nice balance there. And I'll just show you on camera again. Blah. I'm getting anxious because I don't know when that text is going to come in. The guys are going to say they're here. So, all right. So over here, what I did to get ready for this next sew off is didn't do a thing with the stitch selector. Left that on the multi-setting point right here, which gives you a straight stitch, a zigzag, or a buttonhole. So we're going to leave this knob alone. But then I adjusted my stitch length over here to right around 2.5, and then I adjusted my stitch width to 2.5 as well. There we go. So we're going to lay down a zigzag next, and I'll give it a little bit more gas this time. I kind of got wimpy on it the last time. And we hit that leather, and it kind of hit that 2 layers of vegetable tan leather, and it said, "What? What?" So, all right, so get my take-up arm at the highest position, and we'll get ready to get this done as far as the zigzag first, and then we'll go into the 3-point zigzag. All right, here we go. And that was with needle swing, folks. You notice there was no hesitation on the part of the machine at all in getting through that material that time because I gave it enough gas. I didn't hold back on it. And if you're not familiar with the original foot controller style on the Swedish Beauties, it's what I call kind of a racing pedal, a speed style pedal. So it's really easy to get your foot on. It's not like the Bakelite ones with the button on them. That's sometimes going to be a bit of a pain. This pedal is really, really easy, super easy to manage. Matter of fact, I'll show it to you real quick before I forget. Come out in this shot a little bit right here, and just show you that that foot controller. Set it up on the bed because I have my screen pointed the wrong way and I can't see what you're seeing right now. But that is the speed style foot controller that Husqvarna came up with. It's a beautiful, beautiful pedal to work with. It allows you to meter out the power very nicely, and it also allows you to punch it, you know, if you need to go through some heavy stuff. Of course, we always have the slow gear too, where we can really manage the power output is going to be the same. We're going to get 1 amp or more, but it's going to allow you to control that speed. As a matter of fact, I might sew this next one using that slow gear, and I'll show you how to engage that. We'll kind of come out on the shot a little bit, and I'll show you how to engage that. And I'll put my foot controller back. And this is a sticker that Wayne had on it. Don't know why, but I left it on there just in case he needed it or wanted it for some reason. So if we want to engage the slow gear, it's real simple. All we do is on the right side of the machine, we're going to be pulling out the bobbin winder assembly. So this is the bobbin winder assembly right over here. We're just going to grab it like this and pull it out. And right now it's in the extended position. And that automatically uses a gear reduction to take it from full speed down to 1/5. So it allows you to have a great deal of control as you're looking to do more intricate sewing. And then when you're done with it, all you do is push it back in, just like that. And then it's disengaged. And when it comes to my servicing on the machine, there's probably 25 to 30 service points just on the bobbin winding assembly itself. A lot of servicing to do on that particular mechanism that is so essential to the machine, not only because it provides that slow gear, but it also gives you automatic bobbin winding disengagement to take the clutch out. And it also is that transfer point when that power comes off of the motor, so that if you don't optimize that particular component, your machine is going to be struggling in everything that it does. I just remembered I'm going to grab an extra bobbin so I can show Wayne how to slide that on and how to disengage the clutch for winding a bobbin. Just have to grab one over here real quick. Let's see where my shot is. Oh yeah, we're back over by the material. I'll just leave this bobbin out. We'll show Wayne when he gets here. Okay, so what I'm doing now off camera is I'm taking that stitch selector, I'm turning it one click counterclockwise to get us to that 3-point zigzag. And then I'm going to shorten up my stitch length down to right around 1.5. And then our stitch width I'm going to set just a little bit longer than that, right around 2. So we'll lay down this 3-point stitch now, get my take-up arm all the way to the highest position, and let's do this next stitch off. Again, we're sewing 2 layers of vegetable tan leather. 2 layers of vegetable tan leather. All right, here we go. Let me just stop this music for a second so you can listen to the machine run in the slow gear. The slow gear is such just a phenomenal feature on the Swedish Beauties. I mean, there's so many cool things about the Swedish Beauties, but the slow gear is really the cat's meow when it comes to control. There's other makers out there that came up with switches and stuff that would reduce the electricity flow to the motor and stuff like that. They just don't work as well. And this really, in its design, is a lot more simplistic. It's basically the equivalent of a 10-speed bike where you're changing gears, and through a gear reduction, you're taking the machine from full speed all the way down to 1/5 speed, which is just amazing. And listen to it run. It does not increase the power, it increases the control, and it reduces the speed. Listen to this run. Here we go. And then what I always recommend is, prior to trying to turn the balance wheel, because when the slow gear is engaged, it changes the gear ratio, which kind of binds up the free movement of the balance wheel. So you always, before you want to try to adjust it now to cut your thread and to move on to the next phase, you want to disengage that slow gear. And then you can turn that balance wheel very, very easily. So off camera, I'm pushing that slow gear back in. You can hear me click it. And now I can easily raise my presser foot and adjust the movement of the balance wheel so I can cut my thread and get ready for the next phase. Oh my goodness gravy. Wait until you see this stitching, folks. Wait until you see this stitching. It is just wow. Wow! Alright, let me get out my stitch off holder. And we'll set this up, make sure I get it right. That should be our top stitch right there. I'm going to put my music back on. You know me with music. Get another quick little drink of water and then we'll check these out. And I just had a text come in. That may be Wayne saying, "We are here. We are here. We are here." Nope, it was another text. It was another text. This is a fun song, isn't it? This is Look at Stitching weather, music. Look at stitching music and weather. You can tell it's been a long week. I can't speak English. Might be able to speak French, maybe. All right, let me loosen the camera a little bit. So we'll look at that straight stitch first, and I can see that I need to change the angle of the camera just slightly. Hold on just a sec. There we go, I think that's pretty good. So let's look at that straight stitch first. The straight stitch. Beautiful stitching. Holy mackerel. Get the right angle here. Hold on just a sec. All right, I think I have the right angle and I think I have the right lighting now. It's really a trick. All right, look at these two rows together. So we're looking at the straight stitch and in the middle, the zigzag. Absolutely spot on. The spacing, the formation, the integrity of the stitch. Exactly what we want to be seeing. Exactly what we want to be seeing. Now let's go down to that 3-point stitch next and look at that. It's like a 3-point zigzag that we laid down. Totality of the stitching will come right out about to there. Lock the camera in. Folks, those are absolutely drop-dead gorgeous stitches. And again, take into account, we're not sewing something super light and easy to get through. We're going through 2 layers of vegetable tan leather. 2 layers of vegetable tan leather. And this 2000 did it just like it was a hiccup. And again, we did that last stitching row with that 3-point zigzag. We did that with the slow gear, which gave me a lot of control. It gave me the ability to really meter out that speed, and the result was the same regardless. I mean, we could have sewed it. We could have sewed that last row on the bottom there, going full speed, and gotten the same result. But it's so much more fun to be able to take your time and to be able to watch that stitching get laid down you know, stitch by stitch by stitch by stitch, and you can push the foot controller all the way down to the ground, and you're still going to be able to meter out that speed using that slow gear. A beautiful, wonderful feature on the part of the Husqvarna series in general. I mean, all the way back here to, you know, the 1960s, they were employing it just as they did back in the 1950s with the Class 20 and the Class 21 green machines. It's one of those features that once they found it, once they perfected it, there was no letting loose of it. They were never going to go back. So incredible results. Let's turn this around and look at the lock stitch. And again, I set this leather up back to back, so we'll be able to hopefully see it very, very easily. Very easily. The caliber and the quality of the stitching is just off the charts. Let's zoom in on this. We'll look at these two rows together. Folks, I'm already at page 34 plus. The straight stitch, the zigzag below it. Wow. And again, we're talking 2 layers of vegetable tan leather. 2 layers. We make it look so easy here in the workshop, don't I? I mean, I just go through it and you expect to see it because it's a sewing Olympics, right? If you're going to the Olympics, it's not going to be easy. It better not be, or everybody could do it. Everyone could be an Olympian. Let's take a look at that 3-point zigzag down below. Unbelievable. Let's look at all 3 rows. Well, Wayne, you've got a sweetheart of a machine that belonged to your grandmother. What a sweetheart of a machine. It needed a lot of stuff, including some parts replacements, but you know what? That's all history. The future of this machine is bright. It's fabulous. Look at that. Look at that stitching right there. Folks, I go with a page 34. Page 34, which means near perfect. That's about as close to being on the edge of perfect as you can get. The straight stitch on the top row, the zigzag in the middle, and then finally that 3-point zigzag that's on the bottom down there is just unbelievably near perfect. It's unbelievably near perfect, almost on the edge of being perfect. It's phenomenal, isn't it? Isn't that phenomenal? It's so great to, and remember again where we started, okay? Remember where we started. Trying to grab it right now. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you what, let me grab my other sew-off holder. Hold on. All right, so I think that might be Wayne and Dakota arriving right now. I hear Hank starting to get a little fussy. I think that might be them. Can't quite see. Yep, I think that is them. So we started over here, right? We started over here, not on those, not the white stitching. We started over here. And then I laid this down today. That beautiful stitching up there. And now we're over here. You get it? All right, let me wind this shot quite a bit. I'm gonna go upstairs and let the guys in. Yeah. Oops, you're okay. Go ahead. It's a narrow path. It's a narrow path.
Yeah, it is.
Hi, sweetie. Good to see you again. Good to see you again. Well, if y'all can't see it, my friends, Wayne and Dakota are in the workshop. The last time Dakota kind of hung out in the car, and you guys can hear Hank upstairs. He thinks he is the only dog in the universe. And you know what? I bet you probably Dakota thinks that he's the only dog in the universe too.
There you go. Down. Hey, down. Good boy.
Well, welcome back, you guys. I've been doing a lot of sew-offs with the machine, and I'll show you some of that stuff. That's just my... Hey, pal. I know you can hear that dog up there, can't you? And now you're smelling my feet saying, that's what that dog smells like, right? That's what that dog smells like. Just got to step around you. So what I've done so far is off camera, I did these.
Okay.
And this is saddle grade leather. And those are some of the stitches that your machine is able to do beyond a straight stitch and beyond, you know, a zigzag.
Nice.
And then I, just now on camera, I did 2 layers of vegetable tan leather and laid down some of that stitching there.
Jeez.
So, you know, you're probably just looking for basic type of sewing. Sweetie, I know you can hear that dog. You can hear that dog.
Down. You're fine. You're good.
I love his vest. I don't know, can you all see his vest? The American flag design, isn't that phenomenal? He is such a beauty, isn't he? No, you can't have him, you guys. He belongs to Wayne.
It's right.
He's taken.
My daughter's trying to take him from me.
So I'm going to zoom back in on the machine, and we'll do some more sewing while Wayne and Dakota are here. And the other thing I did, Wayne, and you may not be able to see it from that distance, I'll show it to you, but I'm going to show our friends again, is I sewed the same material that you sewed down in Tennessee.
Okay.
And I kind of showed them a compare and contrast with what the machine is doing now. Again, folks, you can see that top row of straight stitching, zigzag in the middle, and then the 3-point zigzag on the bottom. And then that black row on the bottom is what Wayne had been getting from the machine before. So I'm going to hand that to him so he can take a look at it now in comparison.
Much better.
Does that look different a little bit?
Oh yes. Much better.
Kind of hold it up and I'll zoom in on you with that. So that is what a Swedish Beauty looks like when it's gone through the workshop, you guys. Isn't that phenomenal? I'm kind of envious of Wayne taking this beautiful machine back that belonged to Grandma, because it is just sewing up a storm now. So let's do some more sewing and then let these guys get on the road, because they've got a long trip ahead of them. What, about 9 or 10 hours? And if you hit Chicago at the wrong time, it could be longer than that. So let's zoom in on the needle, and I'll stop the music so Wayne can also hear the machine running as well. As Hank continues to announce, there are invaders in the house. There's invaders in the house. All right, so let's cut out the music for a second. I'm going to move our stitch off holders. And I think what we'll do now is, I had shown the folks before how the slow gear works on the machine, which is a great way to have more control. This is some of that saddle grade leather right here.
Right.
I just love the smell of leather. And what we're going to do now is what I call the sewing around in the circle thing. So I'll probably change my camera angle just a little bit. And I'll probably change the stitch that it's doing too. All right, come out on the shot a little bit so we can see that as a bigger field as we're kind of maneuvering it. So again, I've already shown the folks watching how to engage the slow gear. All you do is just pull this out right here. I don't know if you used it when you were down in Tennessee or not. Just give it a pull right here. And now what it does is it reduces the speed from full power, or full speed I should say, reduces it from full speed down to 1/5, and you'll be able to hear it running, how different it sounds straight away. So I'm going to change the stitch selector right now. I'm actually going to, I'll change the camera shot so they're looking at the same thing you are. So I'd shown our friends already. Setting the machine up for sewing is real simple. This is your stitch selector, and right now it's on what's called a 3-point zigzag, where the little white dot is. We want to get it back to where we're going to be doing a straight stitch to go around this saddle grade leather. So I'm just going to turn it one click to the right. And this setting right here gives you straight stitch, it gives you zigzag, and then also gives you the buttonhole option, which I never use. And so we'll set it up for that. This is our stitch length. So I'm going to be setting it up for probably right around 3. We won't go full length, we'll make it a little bit shorter. We'll go 3.5. Yeah, right around there. And this is your stitch width, which when you're doing a straight stitch, you have to set this on 0.
Okay.
And then once this is set on 0, then you're able to do a straight stitch. Whenever you want to do a zigzag or anything like that, you have to adjust your stitch width to something greater than 0.
Gotcha.
So I'm going to change the shot and we'll just kind of buzz around this for fun. Stay out a little bit wider because I got to kind of maneuver this a little bit. And we'll let folks listen to the machine run also. So we've got our slow gear engaged. And then always start with your take-up arm at the highest position. I already showed our friends that. Because that way it's on the downswing and you don't get any delay, you don't get any binding of the machine when you launch into it. And then just give her gas and we'll kind of go around and around and around and around and around. So. And I explained to our friends already what we have in the machine right now, believe it or not, is not a leather sewing needle. It's called a universal needle, which I use Schmetz needles, and it's designed to, I'm just going to clip our threads real quick so that I don't run into problem with sewing over it like I usually do. You can see the advantage of that slow gear. It just really, it just takes that speed down so much. But then if we say, you know what, I'm done using the slow gear, I want to go full speed, you just push it back in, and then we'll be back to full speed again. And you say, yeah, I don't know, it's kind of labor intensive to do that. It's more work than I want. Then just engage your slow gear again. Pull it out.
I can see where the slower speed is more beneficial.
So if you're trying to sew the edge on something, if you're trying to do some more intricate sewing, you're able to push that foot controller almost all the way down. and still maintain absolute control of laying that stitching down. One of the folks at a recent premiere said that they used to have to do this in sewing class back in home economics back in the day when they were in school. They had to do something similar to this, kind of sewing in a circle to demonstrate that they had control over the machine. I just do it because it's fun. So yeah, this is a size 90 Schmetz universal needle. I'm going to really slow it down now. Yeah, that's probably enough. And then what I explained is when you get done using the slow gear, before you try to turn the balance wheel, because when it's in the slow gear, the balance wheel kind of locks up a little bit because of the gear reduction. Just push this back in, and then you can turn the balance wheel freely without any issue. And you heard that little click, it's kind of kicking that gear back into the full speed again. So I'm going to show our friends first, and then I'll show... Well, actually, you know what? Let's do it in reverse. I'll show you first, and then I'll show our friends what your machine just did. What do you think?
I like it.
That's what we call, when we get a stitch that is just perfect like that, you're looking at the top stitch right now. If you flip it over, you'll be able to see the lock stitch. When you get a stitch that's perfectly balanced like that, it's a fairly thin layer of saddle grade leather, but it's still saddle grade leather. And you don't get any of that bird nesting, you just get a perfect balance. We call that a page 34 stitch. Page 34 is kind of something I came up with just to indicate that it's a near perfect stitch. I never say perfect stitch, even though a lot of the people that follow what I do say, Scott, that's a perfect stitch. It's perfect. I say, you can always make things better. You could go to a roller foot, you can go to a walking foot,
Right.
and you can maybe even get a little bit better stitch definition, but it's absolutely the way we want to be seeing it. And we're only using a standard dual duty type thread right now. It's probably about a 30 weight thread. You could just as easily set this machine up with upholstery thread that's probably closer to 50 weight, and then you get even more of a texturing when it comes to the look of the thread, which I love the texturing of the thread when it really, you know what, folks, I don't even need to show you because Wayne is holding it so beautifully. I'll just kind of go around as he's holding it. And look at the edge again. We're looking at probably about 3 to 4 ounces of saddle grade leather. And the machine could go through 3 or 4 times this amount and still lay down the same quality of stitching. So, but you know, compared to where we started to where we are now, this is the good stuff.
It is.
All right, so I'm going to zoom back in on the needle, and I'll just set up the camera. We'll go through one other sew-off, and then we'll help you guys to get on the road safely before it gets any later in the day, so you can avoid hitting the rush hour in Chicago.
Oh, definitely.
Rush hour in Chicago is no fun. I've done it. So again, folks, single layer saddle grade leather, about 3 to 4 ounces. There you go. If your Swedish Beauty is not sewing as well as Wayne's, then you want to send it to the workshop. All right, let me throw that to the side as well with the other sew-offs we've already done. Again, we're not doing a sewing Olympics because Wayne and Dakota have to get on the road. But this is what we've done so far, on and off camera. A lot of leather sewing. So I'll probably buzz down and do a quick sew-off on canvas and on denim, and then we'll call the deal done so that these guys can get back on the road. And I'll give us a little bit of background music so you don't have to listen to me blah, blah, blah. So what things did you do on your trip?
Well, went over to the peninsula and went to Sturgis Bay.
Oh, you were in Sturgeon Bay too then?
Yes.
Okay.
Thought about going up into Michigan, but we didn't.
Okay.
Other than that, Dakota found a dog park, and Dakota stretched his legs, and yesterday he got a bath.
You got a bath too?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So it's just been more relaxing.
Good. There's nothing wrong with that. All right, so what we're going to do now, folks, is just go through nothing major, especially not major for this machine because it has brand new belts and everything. So it is just ready to get the job done no matter what Wayne throws at it. But we're going to do just 2 layers of canvas. See if I could fold it. You know what? Let me change that. That'll be a nice longer sew off, but I don't want to insult this machine, so we're going to go 2 layers. I'll fold it in the middle to get us up to 4, and then one more time to get us up to 6. 6 layers of commercial grade canvas. And we'll just do some, probably do a line of straight stitching and maybe a line of, how about that 3-point zigzag? We'll do a 3-point zigzag down it as well. So I'm going to set up the controls. I've got the stitch selector on straight. I'm going to take our stitch length. Our stitch length is right around 4. That's fine. And then our stitch width is on 0, like it should be. So we'll do a straight and we'll do a 3-point zigzag going down the other side. And I love my music, but let's pause it so we can listen to the machine. Here we go. And we'll be doing this at full speed. All right, any of you watching right now, you can just hear the machine barely made it through that. I mean, it was just struggling, groaning and moaning and going, oh my gosh, are you serious? The reality is it just sewed it like it was cotton. And again, this is 6 layers of commercial grade canvas. So anyone that says direct drive is the only way to go through materials like this doesn't have a clue, because this is a belt driven machine. It's got 2 belts. It's got a belt going between the motor and the bobbin winding assembly, and then it's got another belt going over the balance wheel. Let's just take a look at the stitching, and then I'll give this. And I'll show you first of all from the side. Look at the thickness of what we just went through. 6 layers of commercial grade canvas. And I might be better off in this case just leaning it against the needle because it's acting a little bit squirrely as far as balancing here. It's acting really squirrely. There we go. I think I got it now. I just have to watch as I go back and forth so I don't bump Dakota, because he is, y'all want to take a look real quick, he's made himself at home. See that? Contently waiting and saying, what is my friend Wayne going to do next? Okay, once the camera focuses. So this is 6 layers of commercial grade canvas, and look at the stitch quality, folks. Absolutely page 34. The spacing, the formation, the integrity of the stitch is just exactly as it should be. I mean, that is just absolutely spot on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it around now so we can look at the lock stitch. Will we see anything dramatically different? We shouldn't. It should be pretty much the same. But then again, as we do a wide field of materials, sometimes we have to make adjustments to the upper tension, because to balance that stitching when you go through different materials, you sometimes have to increase or decrease that upper tension. So let's take a look at these. Pause right there. Folks, that is also gorgeous stitching. However, I would probably look at maybe bumping up the upper tension just slightly to even give better definition to that lock stitching. Again, the upper tension is going to control the lock stitching. The bobbin down below is going to control the top stitching. But again, 6 layers of commercial grade canvas is a very, very challenging sew off for any machine, especially with the sewing I've already done on that needle. But it's still laid down a real solid stitch. I would just make it a little bit better by probably increasing that upper tension. And I'll show it to Wayne now so he can look at it as well. And I don't know if he's going to be sewing canvas or not. But the thing I'm pointing out to our friends is, if you, on the bottom, if you get a stitch that looks like it's a little bit weak.
Right through here?
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's a product of the upper tension not pulling up hard enough. This right here. So that's where you would bump, you could either bump this up a little bit, or you could bump the bobbin case down a little bit, and it'll tighten that stitch up just perfectly. And as you sew different materials, you sometimes have to do that. You just have to make real subtle adjustments to the machine to give it that ability to go through it. So the last one we're going to do, you guys, because we've done pretty much everything else. And I know I always do elk hide, right? I always do elk hide. But I'll probably leave this elk hide for Wayne to do. And I don't know if do you want to actually do any sewing on it in the premiere or not?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So we're going to do some denim next. I'll kind of change my shot again, and we'll kind of zoom in on the needle. And I'm going to do something a little bit challenging on this next sew off, you guys. Instead of doing like a straight stitch or a zigzag or a 3-point zigzag or something blah 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 like that, I think on this last sew off we'll actually use some of the cam features on the machine. And you know what, I should probably widen the shot so I can show you, and also show Wayne as well, because this was Wayne's grandma's machine. And just like anyone, when you get a different machine, you have to kind of get acquainted with it, right? You have to kind of learn the ropes. So this was Ida's machine for about 15 years. And I'm sure she probably used the cams regularly. Now, do you just have the cam A, Wayne, or do you have other cams?
No,
as well?
I have the whole accessory pack and everything.
The whole
so
thing.
I've got all 3 cams.
Okay. So what we're doing now, you guys, is we're going to do some decorative cam sewing with Wayne's machine that belonged to Ida. And to set it up for that, we've got to look at our stitch selector first, this knob right here. And we have to say, okay, we have cam A in the back, so we've got a purple stitch, we've got a red stitch, we've got a yellow stitch, and we have a blue stitch. So we want to do the purple one first, right? We'll do them in order. So I've got to turn my stitch selector to a point of getting it over to purple. And you can see that that particular space is shared by purple and green. And then I have to take my stitch length and I have to set it somehow near the purple region as well. And I always usually turn it the wrong way. I actually did better this time. So you may not be able to see it in the shot, but we've set the stitch length in the purple region. And I always go a little bit shorter than that. I'll probably go right about over to around 2. And then our last setting down here is our stitch width. And we have to set that also in the purple region as well. So I'm going to kind of turn it, and that's our purple region right there. And I'm going to go a little bit shorter again, probably to right around 1 1/2, 1 3/4, somewhere in that area. We could even go a little bit shorter than that. You know what? I will. Let's live dangerously. We'll go to right around 1 1/4, right in that region. Okay. So what we're going to be aiming to sew is that first stitch. I'll kind of zoom in it so you can see it. So we got all of our knobs set, right? And I'll just kind of show you the knobs as well, in case you have this machine and you're like, I couldn't see that. So we're doing a purple stitch, so we set, what I'm showing you right now is the stitch width knob. The stitch width knob is just a little bit below the purple region, right? Right above it is our stitch length, and you can see I've got that set also a little bit below the purple region. And then we've got our stitch selector on the far left on the top, and you can see we've got a choice on that setting either for green stitches or purple stitches. And if I go up to the top now on the display, you can see the purple stitch is going to look a little bit like a blind hem stitch, isn't it? So that's the first one we're going to do, and then we're going to do the red one second, the yellow one, and then the blue one, which has a floral look to it. Now I'm not going to keep going up and down. I'm just going to do some of these changes off screen since you've seen them. Again, as you're looking at the three knobs, the bottom one is your stitch width. The one just above it is going to be your stitch length, and then the one on the top left is going to be your stitch selector. Okay? So let's head down to the material. We'll buzz through and do these different stitches that Cam A can generate. And remember, when you're changing out cams on this machine, the stitch selector, you want to turn it all the way clockwise as far as it'll go, so that that cam stack is fully extended in the back so you can remove the cam easily. Don't try to do it if the cam is kind of recessed in a little bit. Just turn that top knob on the left all the way clockwise, and then that cam will be fully extended on the back. You'll be able to pull it out, and then when you put it back in, just push it in gently. Remember that cam stack is thin plastic, and you don't want to jam it in. Just kind of, you push in gently until you feel it snap into place. Okay, so we're going to widen this shot just a little bit, and we're going to be doing all cam stitching now, you guys. All cam stitching on Wayne's machine, and then we'll get these guys on the road before that Chicago traffic starts to kick in around lunchtime, or a little bit after lunch. I think it's normally when it kicks in. And I think just so we can listen to the machine and kind of slow it down a little bit, you can see it lay down the stitching. I think I'll engage the slow gear while we're doing this, you guys. So I'm just pulling out our bobbin winder on the right side. Make sure our take-up arm is at the highest position. And now we're going to be laying down the purple stitch on Wayne's machine. All right, you guys ready? Here we go. And again, we're only sewing 2 layers of heavy grade denim. It's not a super heavy duty sew off, but it's not cotton with a stiffener like most people will do. Most people will do when they're doing decorative type sewing, they'll use a stiffener and they'll use a cotton type material. We're using denim because the machine is able to do it. There are other machines that would not be able to lay down stitching of this caliber on denim. They just wouldn't. So we'll do all of these. I'll show them the Wayne, and then we're at the finish line, you guys. Okay, so the next one I'm doing, and again, I'm going to do this off camera, get our material back into place. Make sure your threads are always to the rear, and your top thread goes between the little opening on your presser foot right there. Kind of draw it to the back. Make sure they're always in the back when you launch. I recently helped a local friend that volunteers at the Humane Society. He had picked up a machine. He said, I wondered why I was having trouble. He said, I had the thread to the side. I sometimes had it to the front, and it was just a mess. So always make sure your threads are to the back. So now we're going to be doing the red stitch. I'm just going to take my stitch selector off camera, click it 1 click clockwise. And whenever you change settings on the knobs, you guys know this, I talk about it all the time, make sure your needle is clear of the material, because you notice that needle moved. Watch it again. That needle moves, and if it's in the material, it could bend the needle. So make sure the needle is out of the material when you make changes. Now I'm taking my stitch length, and I'm going to move it over to the red as well. And then I have to take our stitch width and move it over to the red also. On the stitch width, sometimes like the green, the red, the yellow, and the blue are all going to be in the same thing. So once we change it to that, we don't have to do much in the way of adjustments after that. Okay. So we'll do this next one. Now we're going to do the red stitch. And you know what? I might shorten it up just a little bit more. A little bit more than we had it. And y'all listen to the machine run. Listen to Wayne's machine. This is the way a Husqvarna should sound. If yours sounds different, then it's not running well. That's really a cool stitch. We'll take a look at these as soon as we're done, and I'll show them to Wayne as well. So again, that is what we just laid down as our red stitch on cam A. And since Ida sounds like had the 3 cams, probably cams B and C, then there'll be a lot more decorative stitches that Wayne can test and kind of try on different projects that he decides to try to do. And I've got some customers that are bikers, and they'll use some of these decorative stitches on the Swedish Beauties on their biker vests. So it's not just all about dainty, delicate stuff. It's also about setting up some beautiful stitching on your biker vest too. All right, so now we're going to do the yellow stitch, right? I got to turn my stitch selector 1 click to the right again. Now we're in the yellow region. Now I have to adjust my stitch length over to the yellow region as well. So we're just a little bit to the right because I like to do these decorative stitches a little bit shorter. It kind of tightens them up. It gives them better definition. So instead of being right in the middle of yellow, I'm just going a little bit to the right of it. And then we don't have to do a thing with our stitch width because it's already set in the rainbow section, as I call it, with yellow as an option. Okay? So now we're going to do the yellow stitch. This is a really intense, intricate stitch. If you're able to see it in the camera, watch that needle working. That needle is just going crazy executing that pattern. All right, here we go. And my take-up arm is at the highest position again. Here we go. Make sure that we're getting low on thread, you guys. I might not even go all the way down. We might go about halfway down, otherwise we might run out of thread before we do this last stitch. This is a super intense stitch. Matter of fact, I'm going to, off camera, what I'm going to do, and I see my needle is down in the material, I'm going to adjust it up a little bit. And you always turn the balance wheel towards you, you guys. Always turn the balance wheel towards you. I'm going to take my stitch length, which again is that upper right knob, and I'm going to move it more towards the longer end, so we eat up a little bit less thread, because we are just sucking that thread down real quick here. So here we go. All right, I'm going to stop there because we are just eating the thread up. We are just eating the thread up. Well, you'll be able to see what that pattern looks like. I call it kind of a catacomb pattern because it just got a lot of intensity to it. It's got a lot of intensity to it. All right, so we're going to do, we'll just kind of build right below that, and we'll do our last pattern, which is going to be a lot more intricate. It's going to be our blue pattern. So we'll just kind of extend it below the stitch row that we just did. So what I'm doing off camera right now is I'm turning our stitch selector from yellow over to blue. Have to go the other way, possibly. There we go. So setting our stitch selector on blue now. I also have our stitch length in the blue region, and then our other setting is on blue as well, down below the stitch width. So now we're going to be laying down, which is kind of a rose pattern now, kind of a floral pattern. I'm just going to shorten the stitch length just a tad more to give it a little bit better definition. And also make sure we're not out of thread. Looks like we're okay for a little bit, so. All right, our final pattern on cam A is a floral, almost like a rose type viney pattern. It's kind of cool. All right, here we go. Take up arms at the highest position. Let's get this last one done. And in this last one, we'll go ahead and do it with our slow gear so you can listen to that slow gear running again. And again, all we're doing is taking the machine down from full speed down to 1/5. It doesn't do anything to the power. You're going to have the same power whether you go full speed or whether you go with the slow gear. It's exactly 1 amp or slightly more after I've gone through the motor. All right, you guys ready? Last stitch line, here we go. We should get a floral type pattern. All right, here we go. Okay, and again, when you get done with using your slow gear, go ahead and just push your slow gear back in on the side, click it in, and then you can adjust your balance wheel very easily. And again, just clip your threads, move your thread to the back. Give that a clip as well. Beautiful stitching. Other than when I was trying to do it too short on that super intense one, we got a little bit of a thing at the end. But that's because I made the material so short it just wasn't moving. Actually, let me do it. Yeah, that's correct. Orientate it like that. And I'll zoom in on these so you can see them. You guys can't see it, but Dakota is totally chilled right now on the workshop floor, just kind of going, okay, I know we're getting ready for a long trip. Getting ready for a long trip. See that? That is a happy dog. All right, let's take a look at these stitches and get these guys on the road. So you can see that one stitch that I call it kind of the catacomb stitch. Incredibly intense stitch. That needle is just working up a frenzy trying to execute that pattern. And again, don't be over indulgent like I was in trying to go too short with it, just because you got to stretch that one out a little bit. Otherwise, the machine just can't execute that many moves with the needle. But it still did a brilliant job in laying down that stitching. Then we did the stitch row just below it. I don't know, what kind of stitch would you call that one in the middle, Wayne? You can make up your own name. I do all the time.
I don't know.
Almost a mountain stitch, maybe?
Something like that, yeah.
Kentucky mountains, maybe?
There you go.
So that's Kentucky mountains in the middle there. And that also, I think, is a super cool pattern. And then kind of upside down on the bottom there, we've got a blind hem stitch. And then at the very top, where we kind of finished that other row, we kind of carried it on with that floral pattern. Which again, depending on what kind of project you're doing, let's say you're doing wallets or something like that, or other decorative type leather, that would be a gorgeous one to use. And again, you don't have to pick a basic dual duty Coates and Clark thread like I'm using right now. This is, it's not a bad thread. Not bad at all. It's made by Coates and Clark. It's a decent thread for overall sewing, but there's a lot higher grade embroidery threads that you could use on this machine, and it would give even better detail to that stitching, any of those decorative stitching. So I'm going to come out of the shot. You can look at the totality of this stitching, which, you know what, folks, that is excellent stitching with Wayne's machine. Everything from that super intense catacomb stitch on the upper left to the Kentucky mountains in the middle, and then finally that blind hem type stitch on the bottom, along with the rose pattern on the top. So some fabulous stitching. We'll turn it over real quick and look at the lock stitching. Again, the lock stitching is always going to be more difficult for the machine to execute, because as it's going through the material, it's got to be able to pull that thread against gravity and friction back up through those layers and complete that sewing stitch very rapidly. It's got to happen very rapidly. Let's take a look at those lock stitching. Look at that top row first, the floral pattern, which is just absolutely spot on. Again, even as great as it is, You could get even better definition if you went with an embroidery type needle, and if you went with embroidery type thread like you've seen me use before, the yellow thread. But we're just using a basic Coates and Clark, and we're using a generalist type needle. So you could make it even more intense and even more better definition with a different needle and different thread. Then our Kentucky Mountains also looks great on that lock stitch. We got some real good balance. When we were sewing the canvas, which is a tricky material to sew, you remember on our lock stitch it was a little bit on the weak side. And Wayne and I both agreed if you just bumped up that upper tension just slightly, you could tighten it up very easily. But some beautiful stitching all the way across as we look at the Kentucky Mountains, which is real close to where Wayne lives, where Wayne and Dakota live, and then also that blind hem on the bottom as well. So just a fabulous result for this machine. Came here kind of sick. I'll give Wayne all the old parts that I had to replace and everything. But she is in just tip-top shape now and ready to go back to Tennessee on the border of Kentucky. So safe trip to you guys. Oh, there goes my phone now. They're always looking for us, aren't they?
Yep.
Silence that for now. Somebody local trying to reach me.
Oh.
Probably have a machine crisis. Well, any questions about the use of the machine, Wayne? I know you've got the manual as well, which is fabulous.
You've pretty much explained everything.
And the other thing I did, and I didn't show you specifically, is
put an LED bulb in there.
Put an LED bulb in, because that was just going to, I mean, it's less heat, and it does a heck of a lot better job in lighting the bed.
Lay down. Yeah, I was looking at doing that anyway, so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
You mentioned the bobbin tension.
Yes.
How do you adjust that?
Oh, sure. Let me grab an extra bobbin. I'll show you on an extra bobbin without having to take it out of the machine. Oh, you're doing fine, Dakota. You're so...
Just lay down. Relax.
Good boy.
Yeah, we're gonna go over to the bay before we leave.
Oh, the spot I took you before?
Yeah.
Oh.
Let him walk a little bit and do some
Absolutely.
business, and then we'll be out.
See if I can find an extra bobbin carrier. Okay, here we go. These are some of my backup bobbin carriers. Hey, sweetie.
Oh, okay. How much are they?
I just reached past you there. It's on the right side there if you want to click it off. I usually forget to turn that off, so.
I don't think I've got a second one. I don't know how important they are.
Well, they're really important, but what I would probably do is I could also mail you one, because I'd want to check it before, before I always verify things before they come out of the bag.
Yeah.
So let me, I'm sorry. Hey, sweetie. Let me turn this around because I can see where we're at. So, I'll grab a screwdriver as well. So for making adjustments, because sometimes the carrier, this carrier is in okay shape, but yeah, it might need to be replaced eventually. I was going to try to get Dakota in there too. He's way over there. He's like, I don't want to be in the shot. Don't put me in the shot.
Lay down. Hey, down.
Hey, let's go to that bay and do our walk.
Yes.
That's what he's saying right now. Let's go to the bay and do our walk. Okay, so on a bobbin carrier like this, put my specs on.
Lay down. Down.
Try to get it in the shot to show the folks as well. Yeah, okay. There's two screws on a bobbin carrier like this. There's a small set screw that holds the pressure band on,
Okay.
and then there's an adjustment screw right here, the larger of the two. What this does again is it pulls down. It pulls down on the thread as you're sewing. So
Okay.
if that top layer of stitching, let's say we're sewing something like this, and let's just say that we looked at the stitching and we go, it's kind of loose. I want it to look a little bit more poppy. Then what we could do is we could do one of two things. We could either increase this by turning it clockwise, and then it'll pull down harder to define the top stitch, or on the machine itself, we could back off the upper tension, because as you take the power a little bit away from this, you give more power to this, and then it would be able to pull down more readily and define that stitch better.
Okay.
But it's just as simple as getting a small screwdriver. To increase, you go clockwise. To decrease, you go counterclockwise. And this one's a little stiff. That's why I always like to check them before I put them out the door. Yeah, there we go. So what I did is I just turned that a little bit counterclockwise. So now, if let's say that we were battling the lock stitch on the bottom, by backing this off a little bit, I now will have a lot better looking lock stitch, because it'll be able to allow that upper tension to pull up harder to define it. But right now the machine is set up for general sewing. You know, sometimes I'll set it up just for leather or whatever it is. But right now, other than a little bit of tweaking, I think you'll get. I mean, these are gorgeous.
Wonderful. Yeah.
They're spot on. So I mean, for general sewing. But yeah, the bobbin case. And the other thing you'll want to do, and I'll just give you guys a quick tip as well, as we're kind of looking at this, is about every 2 or 3 hours of sewing, you want to take a cotton swab with a little bit of sewing machine oil, take your bobbin out, swab the inside, swab the stem on the outside and the inside where that bobbin is going to be sliding over so it spins more freely, and that'll really improve the performance of the machine as well.
Okay.
You know, the basic maintenance things, because this is such a high friction area. As we were doing all that sewing, we couldn't see it, but this thing was just going zzz. So it's like anything. If you reduce the friction, it flows so much nicer, and it does such a better job for you.
Okay.
And that's just your release. If you hold it in, what it's supposed to do by design is it's supposed to keep the bobbin from plopping out. So if you pinch it, and then as you slide it in, then you release it, and then it just allows it to lock into place again. So, but I have these available. See, if you have any trouble, the other bobbin case is original, and it is starting to get what I would consider a little bit more towards the end of its life. So, I can easily drop one of these in the mail to you. You know, just let me know.
Okay. And what oil do you recommend?
There are a couple of different oils out there. I use my own blend, but any of the white machine oils are really good. You can buy them online. You can even buy them at Walmart and some of the major retailers.
Okay.
It's just a pure white. It's not a brownish looking oil like some of the people are using. Never use watch oil. Never use gun oil either on the machine.
Okay.
You'll want to use. I would recommend using. You know, a white type oil. I can show you once we get off camera. I've got a jug of it. You can actually buy it by the gallon online, and they ship it. Most of the people are shipping it out of California. So, but it does a real good job. The other thing I like about, I love kerosene as well. I use kind of a blend of sewing machine oil and kerosene for some of my machines, especially if they were gummed up real bad or if they had rust issues, because unlike regular sewing machine oil. You guys can only see my legs right now. Unlike regular sewing machine oil that has great lubrication principles, but doesn't necessarily do anything for neutralizing or inhibiting rust, kerosene does. Kerosene does a brilliant job of maintaining lubrication throughout the whole machine. It actually has more longevity than regular sewing machine oil, and it works with sewing machine oil beautifully to complement the lubrication, extend the lubrication, prevent the gumming up, and also it's a natural rust inhibitor as well. The only thing that some of my customers don't like about it is kerosene is a little bit stinkier. It's got a stronger odor than regular sewing machine oil, especially when you get into the white sewing machine oil. the white sewing machine oil has like no odor at all. I mean, you can sniff it like this and you can't even smell the stuff. So that's why I kind of mix a combination of the white sewing machine oil and the kerosene, and then you get the best of all worlds. So as I was going through Wayne's machine, especially on the inner parts, I used a mix of the two just to kind of, you know, complement the work. And the result is you have to do less servicing and maintenance on the machine when you combine the two. But again, on a Swedish beauty like this, they are needy machines when it comes to, you know, doing regular maintenance on them. And unlike the 6000 series on this earliest version of the Colormatics, you still have the oiling points across the top. Mm-hmm. They later went to versions that they totally eliminated all the oiling points on the top, which in my opinion was a mistake, because then you have to use, through the faceplate and through the rear of the machine, you have to use an extended type of oiling, because you still have to lubricate that main shaft and the pivot points. But they were just trying to impress people. You know the Swedish people, right? They go with the jam-free raceway, they go with the slow gear and other cool features, and they wanted to say to their customers, you don't have to do anything to this machine, it's just going to run forever, it doesn't need any maintenance. Well, that's not true. So thankfully, Ida's machine that Wayne has now still has those lube points, and then you've got additional lube points in the faceplate, you've got lube points down in the free arm area and the raceway, you've got lube points over here by the slow gear, you've got lube points in the rear where you can take off the rear panel. So, you know, just doing that basic maintenance about every 12 to 14 hours really will extend the performance of that machine well. So there you go. From 1965, originally Ida's machine, now Wayne's machine that he's taking back to Tennessee with his buddy Dakota. So I'm going to end the feed now and wrap up some things with these guys and then get them on the road so that they don't have to go through Chicago at the rush hour. Otherwise, even though we're friends, they'll probably be going, that doggone Scott just can't stop talking, and now he made us late.
Oh, no.
So, all right, you guys. Well, thanks for watching. Safe travels to these good guys as they're heading back to Tennessee. And, oh, I almost forgot to do something. Doggone it. And I even told you guys about this before Wayne and Dakota arrived. This was a very special blanket that belonged to my father. And when Wayne arrived, you guys remember I showed you, when Wayne arrived, he looked at my license plate, because I have a license plate cover that says, once a Marine, always a Marine, right? Well, my mom and dad were Marines. You guys know that I was Army Special Forces and in a Ranger Battalion. And Dad would use this sometimes in the winter to cover up with in his easy chair. But I thought, you know what? Even though it gets a little bit cool down in Tennessee, Wayne and Dakota might barter this and say, you've already got blankets, Dad. I want this for me. So it'll be up to those guys to figure it out. But I wanted to give this Marine Corps blanket to Wayne and Dakota to take back to Tennessee and to celebrate his service as a veteran, as a Marine, and also an Army guy like me. And because all it's doing right now is sitting in the workshop. I don't use it. And it'd be great to get use out of it. You know what I mean? So I'll give this to you guys. Semper Fi.
Semper Fi.
Yeah. And we'll end the feed and get you guys on your way, because you have been so patient, Dakota, and you have to go down by the Bay of Green Bay still. So,
Yep.
Goodbye, Dakota. Goodbye, Wayne.
Goodbye.
Safe trips, and God bless you guys. Take care.
Thank you. You too.